Welcome, everybody. I'm Dr. Fuys, and I'd like to welcome you to Anatomy 1500. This is an all online class, which means that occasionally I may post videos like this for you to access, but we don't have like direct one on one interaction, which means no Zooms or anything like that. That being said, that doesn't mean we can't have a Zoom. So if you're finding that you need to meet with me, that'd be the easiest way to do it. So you just communicate that through email. That's the best way to communicate with me through the school email, and I'll respond to that right away. So a few business items. The most important things for this book for this class. Let me show you the lab manual. All right, this guy, which you all should have. It's critical. It's critical. This thing is phenomenal. So if for some reason you can't get the textbook right away, make sure you have this, because it's going to be key. And you'll notice that there's several lab assignments and lab quizzes. If you look at the syllabus, you'll see when everything's due. And you got to have it because they come right out of there. So how do you do this class to be successful? So I teach this course at the high school level at Neuqua Valley, the exact same class. It's dual credit, so they get the same credit you do. The difference there is they get an entire year. Okay, so you're doing this in a 16-week semester. That's a lot better than doing it in a 12-week. This course was also available. I taught it last term in a 12-week session. That's a lot harder because the material is just so much. So how are you going to do this and be successful? First of all, you're going to use the Blackboard shell, because in Blackboard you'll notice that there's a tab that says course objectives or objectives. And in there it goes unit by unit and lists not only is there vocabulary you should know for that unit, but then all the main things I want you to know. Because if you can do that, it's sort of like a study guide. It's not really a study guide, and that's such a early high school concept, but it sort of is, because it's basically everything I think you should be able to do by the time you finish the unit. So here's how you should do it. The most successful students do this. Before we start a unit, and since the next unit starts Monday, you could start this right away. Or right at the beginning of the unit, since it's all online, it's not like you need to be doing it before we meet in class, right? But this is just a good way to do all of your science classes, especially the ones that require a lot of memorizing and a lot of that kind of stuff, which is what this class does. If you follow this same kind of pattern for those classes, you'll find that you're more successful there too. So here's how you start. You start with the objectives. So take the objectives list, either print it or have it on its own like tab so you can refer to it. And then you're going to take your textbook and you're going to read the textbook. Not trying to read everything in there, because our textbook goes into a lot more depth than this course does. Okay, that's why you want to have that list of objectives. So you're going to read the textbook and take notes. I call it an outline to my high school kids, but it doesn't have to be a true outline. What you want to do is basically take notes on the chapter, but using the objectives as a guide. Do you understand what I mean? So you're looking for the thing, you're going to read it though. Don't just pick out the keywords out of the objectives and scan for that, or you're not going to get the value of it. So you want to read the textbook. And there may be sections you don't have to read because they don't pertain to our objectives. Do you see what I mean? So you're going to read the sections of the textbook pertaining to the objectives and take notes. Okay, that's how you start. Start by taking notes. Then you're going to go to each unit that I have up there. You'll see in Blackboard that there are presentations, PowerPoint presentations that are there. Go through the presentations and take your notes in front of you. And what you're going to want to do now is be condensing. So you're going to add to the notes you took anything that's in the presentation that you look at. Okay, so you're merging. So you're going to have You're going to have notes on the PowerPoint, and you can do it right on the other notes you took. So when you're doing this notes out of the textbook, you may want to like leave space. Don't make it real tight, because understanding that then you're going to go look at the PowerPoints, and you're going to fill anything in there that is missing. And then the next step is to rewrite it all into what I call your study notes. So started out with the reading notes, then you added another layer on top of it by taking notes on the PowerPoint presentations. And now you're going to take all that and condense it down into as few words as possible. Okay, so bullet points, just the basic nuts and bolts, because that's what you're going to study. And when you study, the way you study is critical. So don't just read over these notes. You should be able to write them. Create graphic organizers like a flow chart for things, or and then when you write it like top to bottom one time, and then take a fresh piece of paper or use a whiteboard like what I have behind me. Whiteboards are great because you can erase it and then do it again. It doesn't have to be a big one; it could just be a little one. But then the next time you write it, try to not look at it at the notes that you wrote. Right? Try to just write them out. Write them a different way though. So if the first time you did it in a list going down this way, the next time you write it across the page like this. Okay? And maybe use a different color the next time. See, all these are little tricks to hook it into a different part of your brain. It's because we're trying to memorize a lot of things for this class. It's just what it requires. And that includes a lot of new vocabulary. And each unit will have its own kind of terminology. It's almost like a second language, like a foreign language class. Okay? So writing out when you're studying, critical. Okay? Here's the thing. It may feel like more work, but I promise you it will take less time to get it in, and then you'll be able to pull it out on a test a lot more easily too. Okay, so all of our tests are going to be done online. They're not open book, open note tests. They're not intended to be. Okay, they are timed. There's a time limit for each one, and so I think they're all 50 minutes. They say right on them when you get to them how much time you get. And so when you go to take a test in this class, you'll start it. You can do it anytime during the test day. They're on designated days. So it opens up right at midnight and it closes at 11:59 of that same day. So you have an entire day, but you have to be done with it, okay, by 11:59, which means because it's got a time limit and a due date, means it's got a 50-minute time limit. It's going to stop you at 50 minutes. So just be aware of that, right? So that when you're taking it, that you're working your way through the test. And the idea here is you won't have time to look anything up. So don't think that's how you're going to do your tests. Because if you plan to look things up as you go, you will run out of time and only get through maybe half, and that's not a passing grade. Okay, so I'm just telling you this now so that when you get to your first test, you don't get, I think it's one of the easiest tests ever, but it's also the lowest scores I see. And it's because people, I think, try to do that, and then they realize afterwards that, no, you can't get away with that. You just study it, and then I see the grades go up, which is good because, anyone can look stuff up, right? That's not what this course is about. Okay, anyways, so that's my advice to you. So hit the ground running hard. Do the assignments when they're due. They're all listed on the syllabus, every date that it's due. Right? If assignments are turned in late, I do give some credit for them, but not full credit. And under no circumstances will I accept any assignments after the test for that particular unit. And we're going to have tests fairly frequently. They'll be once a week almost. There'll be some that aren't every week, but they are. Okay. There will be a lab practical at the end, which will cover most of the lab things. So it'll be a lot of labeling and stuff like that. On the lab practical, but then the same material gets tested as we go along, and then there will also be a cumulative final exam at the end. Good news. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to this term. You guys are going to do it. Just make sure you put your time in and work at this class. A&P is often one of the hardest science classes that students take. This and organic chemistry seem to get the bad rap as far as the hardest classes, but it's not really hard. It's just there's a lot of stuff. Okay. All right then. It's nice to talk to you. Nice for you to see me. I can't really see you. See yourself. Have yourselves a great night.